Did you know that you could be fined for up to 20 million euros or 4% of your annual revenue, whichever is higher, if you don't comply with GDPR regulations? Have you ever considered that your business account could get blocked or banned with telecom providers if your next AI SaaS application misuses the outbound calling system inefficiently? There have been numerous instances you could find in Google where individual business owners' phone number has been blacklisted or blocked. In this video, we are going to talk a bit about the business risk, then the technology risk that we should keep in mind when we are seeing more and more technological advancement in this AI space. I know many of you, including myself, working on the Voice AI Agent System as the cheaper, faster, and efficient AI models are coming into the market with TTS and STT prices going down, and the video creation model like Sora models are coming up. There is a huge interest in creating multimodal or Voice AI Agent SaaS startup as these technologies are becoming easier to access for everyone. While as a developer entrepreneur, we always thought of technical challenges to sort out first, but we often miss out the most important business challenge, which is the regulatory requirement fulfillment. So let's quickly talk about in this quick video about of this regulation compliance and how to tackle that. So generally, you in the AI space, with the recent upgrade into the AI model and all the STT and TTS super models coming out, you can actually create this kind of voice and multimodal AI SaaS, right? You can create some multimodal AI SaaS application and you can create the voice enabled AI SaaS application. And the voice ones, we are already seeing a lot of providers coming into the market as of now today, right? Now, the multimodal application, which includes both your text, voice, and video, that is mainly can be based on the web. So rather it will be like mobile apps or it could be on web apps, whereas the voice can be integrated with native channels. So it could be a native app. That means what I mean by native is you could use some kind of like PSTN based phone numbers and just create an AI agent so that anyone if calls to the phone number, it will talk with your AI agent, or vice versa. It could also be an outbound type where basically the AI agent itself will call some numbers, right? Now, inbound type is generally okay when it comes to use the native apps because this is where the customer generally calls to the number. So it is just only about the technological risk that we need to more focus on to, and some of the regulatory risk, for example, just encrypting the personal identifiable informations or not logging all any of the PII data or maybe sensitive data you have to mask, all this kind of technological risk. But when it comes to the outbound type, if you're trying to create an AI SaaS which will do outbound calls, you have to be really, really careful. And why I'm saying so, let's take a quick look. So in outbound calls, when you take any provider, like you go with Twilio or any other provider, there have been numerous examples in past where Twilio have blocked. This is mainly because there are three key parameters that any of the telecom providers or any of this SIP trunk provider looks into. They call it usually bad calls, 0-second calls, and good calls. So what are bad calls? So bad calls are like, let's say you are creating an outbound agent system that will call a potential customer, and if that calls is just generally gonna let's end in within 6 to 10 seconds, let's say you have literally called a person who doesn't have any interest in the product or something, then it's a problem, right? Then you are making an unintended call, and generally telecom operators or the government agencies don't like that. So that's why any of the telecom providers or any of the SIP trunk provider, they generally don't like you to use their number for bad calls because the user can report on that number, and that will eventually get the telecom provider to block that number for a long run, and that will actually cost more reputation business to the telecom provider or the SIP trunk provider, right? So that is why they monitor the bad calls. The 0-second calls is again another category where, for example, if you are creating an AI system to reach out, let's say for some promotions, so as an outbound AI agent will do some product promotions, and you're calling to a number, and then generally when you use an outbound calling system, you use something called caller ID. So what will happen is, as a customer, when they would receive the call, they would see using the caller ID where the call is coming from, and they don't pick up the call. They just cut it and block it, right? And if that happens, that is also another kind of red flags for your product as well as for the SIP provider's product, right? So they can literally lose out that number to it. They can't even resell that number later on, right? So they also keep track on the 0-second calls. The good calls are generally calls that are actually more than approximately 30 to 35 second long, and they track it using a system called ACD, or average call durations. Now, usually a lot of the provider, what they do is when you go and try to use, let's say, Twilio or any other provider, they will have their terms of use, and the terms of conditions of use of their number will say that you cannot have more than 10% of bad calls, or 20% of 0-second calls, or anything, right? It is dependent on the provider. So that means you have to be really careful when you are designing your outbound AI systems, or especially if you're creating a SaaS that will be used by the third party companies. You have to be really careful when you are giving out the numbers to these businesses through your SaaS application, so that you don't create bad reputations for your SaaS product, right? Eventually, your provider might just come and say, hey, we cannot offer you anything because the AI agent system that you are providing is literally making our numbers go into the spam caller list, right? Or the caller ID. So this could potentially happen to you. So you have to be really careful when you are creating your AI agent system or SaaS product. Make sure you define proper terms of use of your policies, and you need to make sure that you are also monitoring the usage of your SaaS product, how the SaaS product is being used, especially in an outbound scenario. While this is just one of the area to reconsider for your AI agent fine-tuning, there are numerous other things to consider as well. For example, if your AI bot would process any personal information, you are most likely needed to keep the processing data in your system for legal purposes for future. You need to comply with local regulations such as GDPR. For example, if you're only saving the chat history, as a human would be having conversation with your AI agent, you would need to make the PII information, or encrypt PII information, or mask PII informations when saving this into your database. So if you're going to use PHI data, for example, the requirement could be even more stringent, right, under HIPAA laws. So you may need to have BA agreement with your provider, for example, the VPS provider or the STT or TTS provider. So you have to have all these agreements, which could be complicated process and expensive too. So if please make sure you are considering this when you are thinking to have your own voice AI SaaS application, if you're planning to build one. And of course, there's a lot to cover. I can just speak on this for an hour, but I just wanted to make this a quick short videos on this, and I'll probably make some more videos on different type of regulations in future in this channel. So if you're interested on to learn this topic, please give it a like and comment below, so that I will know in your interest of topics that I can cover later on the channel. And you can also join the course that I have launched, and where I'm also creating a multimodal voice agent applications, where I will share you the exact journey of myself. What are the things that I'm considering when I'm launching the SaaS? How am I building it? What AI tools that I'm using it? Everything is covered into that SaaS course. I actually launched this course as a generic SaaS course, but now I am kind of fine tuning it to be more voice AI and multimodal AI specific applications developments and a SaaS launch. So if you're interested, please check the link below. There should be a 50% offer to grab the course. So make sure you do that before the course price increases, of course. And with that said, I'm going to close this video. And we definitely cover all these topics in more greater length in the course. So I'm anyway going to create more such brief tutorials for future. So please stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. And with that said, I'm going to close the video. Please take care, and I'll see you on to the next one.